Hmm.
The seat's really squeaky.
Wheel it. Hello and welcome to our live.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
What we're talking about today.
We are talking about overwhelm
Well, we have,
and being like stuck rabbit like in the headlights, isn't it? When you're in a situation you may not have all the answers to, or got full information really, I guess.
yes, because I think sometimes we get learnings as we go. We get learnings all the way through life. And we had one of those experiences recently, which kind of had us both laughing, which we thought would be really interesting to share.
Yes.
So will you introduce it, or will I?
Yeah. So we have coming up at the end of October is a workshop all about overwhelm in Thornbury. And we were discussing about how does this work, what's the layout of it, all that kind of stuff, how we're planning it. So in my mind is that we had the course ready and that's what we're going to do for the day. And then we get a telephone call. Or you get a text message, don't you, Ali?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your bit.
Yeah, and the text message says, "Are you available just now for a quick chat?" But it's somebody that you and I work with regularly. So rather than make the decision on my own, I ask you, "Oh, Joe Blogs has just messaged me. Do you want me to send them the link to join our Zoom call? Because we've been working in Zoom." And then I notice your response, which is pretty much like the one you've
It
got.
is.
Oh, yeah. I was getting the deadpan stare.
Mm.
And then I waited and I waited to see if there was going to be a response from you. And then seeing the response, I thought, right, okay, I'm going to make a decision here. And I said, that's all right. I'll tell them, I'll give them some times when we're available once we've finished this off. Later on, we're working through some of the stuff we've got planned. And a lot of the stuff we kind of do a massive amount of self-reflection in terms of our own experiences or where we've witnessed something or seen something or become aware of it. And because it's really useful as a learning tool. And I ask you, when was the last time you were overwhelmed?
And I replied, today, as in that day, not today, today.
Uh-huh. And I said, okay. I said, tell me a bit more about that. What specifically are you referring to? And you pointed out the conversation we'd had earlier and said, this point here. So I then asked you, what was it about that was putting you in overwhelm? And
Yes.
you,
And my answer was around about is, as I mentioned earlier, we had kind of like the day planned out. We had somebody who would like to join us on the Zoom call to have a chat about something completely off topic. And that kind of goes, I didn't have enough information from Ali to know, does she want this phone call, this person to join us as well? So I'm not there, I'm kind of not able to make a decision to go, no, we don't really want this person to join.
now's not the ideal time.
Yeah, it's not the ideal time.
Mm-hmm.
It takes away us from doing what we need to get completed. If it's towards later in the day, yeah, probably would be okay, yeah, you can join us, but not like halfway through the morning or whatever it is.
Now, halfway through you telling me this, I suddenly start to smile and laugh. And I said to you, I says, I'm sorry, I'm not actually laughing at what you're telling me. I'm laughing at us because my process was I wasn't sure what you would want, so I gave you the option. But I recognised that actually what was going on for both of us in that situation was we weren't sharing enough information for the other person to make a decision.
Yeah.
So
And
what?
all you really got from me was like just stunned looking at,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm trying to work out what Ali wants to have happen as well.
And then I'm trying to work out going, okay, what's the ideal solution here? Which is what got me chuckling. So I was like, would you look at that? Because actually that means all of that effort and you stuck in those what ifs and what's the actual response, me going, what do you want? What's the actual response? And there was a really simple solution here. At which point you and I said, okay, what did we learn from that we can do differently? And that was a really simple fix.
Mhm. And I think you brought up as well is about people pleasing as well, isn't it? Not to upset somebody else, even though we've got all this other stuff on. So that was also brought up.
Well, I think that was going on in a lot of ways. One is
Mhm.
is what do we do with this colleague that we really respect and work with regularly, but also that was also about my people pleasing, wanting not to have to make that decision on my own because it involves both of us, but then not giving you all of the information because
Yeah,
what you didn't know was my thoughts on that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So you and I have kind of a bit of a working contract with each other.
we do.
Mhm.
And that was, well, that's because, believe it or not, we have a bit of friction every now and again. And that kind of having that working contract has kind of resolved that mostly. So we're holding each other to each other, holding each other to a better standard. Going, come on, let's you bullshit, sort yourself out.
Well, that contract also represents our learnings about each other
Mhm. Yeah.
because how that kind of scenario finished that day was us kind of both laughing. Because the minute I told you why what it was I was finding amusing, you started laughing too. And what we then said was actually we updated our contract. So
Mhm.
what have we learned about each other that we can carry forward?
Yeah.
And it was so simple, but it actually is important because that was me going, well, actually, I need to give you a bit more information because it's really helpful if you know what my thoughts are on something too.
Yeah, have a little bit more context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that also means that that's a shared responsibility because part of your contract with that was you being prepared to ask me for that information
Mhm.
if I forgot to share it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so it's, yeah, just updating that information, updating that contract, isn't it? As you just said.
I think it's a lovely example, Rich, of how easily things can go off track with
Mm.
no ill intent in any part.
No, it's an easy, simple misunderstanding, isn't it?
But
That could really have got blown out of all proportion.
yeah, easily. If I look at other relationships or scenarios, that could have turned into a major fight, especially if there's a history of poor communication.
Mhm.
Whereas instead, what it ended up with, this is a point where you and I were both laughing about it, going, yeah, that was a classic, wasn't it? Aha, what did we learn? But we've built that over time.
Yeah. So another example of one of the contracts we built is it's okay to have different opinions as well. So that's respecting opinions. There could be vastly, we could have vastly different opinions on stuff, and that builds a healthy relationship as well. So that gives you another example of how we've built these contracts within our working in how we work.
What it is a series of agreements and a series of, well, there's a couple of phrases I could use. They're learnings about each other,
Mhm.
the boundaries, but there's also permissions in there that says this is this is the permission you have to challenge my opinion, to ask for more information, to to disagree with my viewpoint.
Indeed.
But there's a structure around that that also
Yeah.
says that if I disagree with your viewpoint, I'll also respect your viewpoint. You're
Hmm.
right to have that viewpoint. I don't have to agree with it to respect your right to have it.
Yes.
I can ask you questions about it. I can tell you I disagree with it, but I'll still respect your right to have your
Hmm.
own viewpoint.
Yeah. Likewise.
So we thought it would be interesting to share because I think these are the scenarios that happen in our lives every single day
Yeah,
in
quite
all
often.
forms
Yeah.
or life.
Yeah.
Mm. How
And
many?
yeah, I was going to say as well is, we won't go into too much detail, but how do you also assist somebody else when they're struggling a bit? So especially if there's like a piece of paperwork that's maybe essential to get done, and that person's kind of stuck on that piece of paperwork, and it's going, right, come on, I'll body double you for a little bit because they're just overwhelmed with where do I start with this bloody document? There's just too many words and just too much going on.
He's talking about me. No, and I would agree with you, Rich. I think
Yeah.
that's part of those permissions, isn't it? Is we're
Hmm. Yeah,
also
yeah.
accepting the fact that we don't have to be the same,
Yes.
and that some of those things that we learn are the things that maybe in certain circumstances you would class as something that makes you feel quite vulnerable, or maybe in a work setting, it's something you've always struggled with, but you don't know how to share because it comes previously,
Hmm.
historically, maybe with that sense of being less than or shame or guilt. And I gave you feedback on that when you noticed that with me, and I'd said to you, this is what I really liked about that was I didn't feel any blame or any shame or any less than. All I got from you when you noticed and brought it up with me was recognition, said, right, okay, what do you need from me? And that was really helpful. Like, girls got a bit of an arse kicking. Come on, we're going to get it done now. But in
Well,
a
you're going to get it done. I'll sit here and watch you, as it were.
but it was in a really nice way. It was in a supportive way that
Mhm.
didn't feel less than. It just gave me the impetus to get me over that line. And I think that's really important because that comes back to that contract, doesn't it? We were talking
Yes.
about earlier. It's made up of moments of vulnerability as well, where you agree and acknowledge the trusts that you've got with somebody.
Yeah. And obviously, Theon's just made an appearance.
You have, haven't you?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it is. And
The
it's,
live support cat.
yeah.
When he
And
was a support cat.
and there's a back, or isn't it? How do you establish how do you establish those trusts? To be able to talk to somebody is, do you know what? In the moment, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed and I might need somebody to body double with me even, or I'd like some bit more information about like what we had with that Zoom call with that friend of ours who's looking to come on.
Or when I said to you recently, I don't tell many people this, but the way I process information means that I'm really good at editing a document. I know and understand the structure of sentences, and I'm very good at pulling them together. But if you ask me and use terminology, grammar terminology about structural, that I'm lost. So
Mhm.
that so that I have to look up and clarify for myself what are adverbs, what are adjectives, how are they used, because in a working practice, I can manipulate all of that, I can do all of that, but my brain just decides those labels don't add any value to it, so they throw them back out.
Yes.
That is a moment of vulnerability that I feel safe in sharing because it's not something everybody knows about me.
Mhm. Yes. So I think we hopefully you find this useful.
Yeah, and have a think the next time you have one of those moments when you notice there's like a rabbit in the headlights moments or you're experiencing it. Is this because there's missing information and you're now playing the will I be insulted? Will I insult them if? Will I cause a problem if? What do they actually want from me in this? Because all of those are questions you can ask.
Yes. And if you are living around the Thornbury area towards the end of October, 26th, I do believe,
It is, yes.
we have an event going in a place called Tunbridge. So we'd love to see you there. You can find tickets and links on our social media pages.
You get to spend a very informative morning with us and
Indeed.
walk away with some really useful things.
Yes. Anyway, thank you very much for your time and thank you for listening.